everyone, welcome to Yimba Gaming. It's been a while since I last put a video up, so I'm excited to have a new one here for you to watch. A friend of mine wanted me to do a video on Crucible, so I thought I would do an introductory video on Control. It's probably the most popular play mode in Crucible. So for starters, I think I'm going to briefly go over the way I like to set my character up, what kind of loadout I use, and then I'm going to do an overview of some of the strategies that are useful when you're playing Control. I'm not going to go into too much detail about how to set up your character because there are a lot of very detailed YouTube videos that are already out there that honestly probably would do a better job than I would, but I am going to point out a few things that I think help me be successful in the Crucible. So I'm going to go ahead and select my Titan because that's what I use the most. I have a... oh, well, that's not cool. Alright, so let's try this again. See if it'll connect. I think I was talking about how I play mostly a Titan in the Crucible, and so I'm not really going to go over the Hunter at all. I apologize to all those Hunter fans out there watching. Titan is really what I've used since launch, basically. I played a Hunter briefly in the beta, and I got jealous of watching all those Titans smash large groups of people to death. So when it was time for me to create my character, I decided to go with the Titan first, and I'm going to show you a little bit about how I have that set up. I prefer to play Striker. Again, it's a ton of fun getting to run riot through a large group of people. Okay, so here is my Titan. The two attributes I like to focus the most on are intellect and discipline. Intellect will get my super up faster the better. PvP, Crucible, it really rewards you for getting super kills. You get all sorts of bonus points for you and your team. So the higher this number, the better. Currently it's at 100%. I know at least for PvE, if you go past 100%, you don't really get any extra benefit, so keep that in mind. You don't want to equip everything that has intelligence and put it all into intellect, because there will be a lot of extra points that are pretty much going to waste that could be redistributed into the other two skill sets. Discipline, I'm a big fan of my grenades. They are very useful for finishing enemies off that you've managed to wound but that have sort of retreated around a corner, or they've ducked behind something. You can chuck a grenade after them and get the kill that way. Over here you have the skill tree. I'm a big fan of the Striker skill tree. I'm not going to go too much into detail with it, but I do want to point out that my armor is really high, and that's on purpose. I like to have that survivability to my Titan when I go into the Crucible. Recovery is a little low though, so if you choose to spec it out like this, you need to recognize when to take cover and give your character a chance for that health bar to fill back up. Other classes, they're going to maybe be more concerned with agility, particularly if you're playing a Hunter, because already their armor is low, so you want to be able to sort of bounce around a lot. With the Titan, it's not as big of a deal. I like to have those in-your-face confrontations, so armor being high, that's a benefit for me. I also want to point out that kills with Stormfist reduce the cooldown of Fist of Havoc. This is really handy. Whenever you punch someone and you get a kill for it, it's going to help your super reset faster. So that's a good thing to have activated. And then I'm really a fan of the pulse grenade due to the explosive radius and the damage that it deals within that radius. It's very handy, although you will see a lot of people using the lightning grenade, particularly in trials. If you have a good handle on geometry and how surfaces are and where people are going to be running through, you can do some pretty fun things with this as well. Okay, so in order to talk about loadout, I realized I needed to pull my Warlock out because it actually has all of my weapons on it. I finished all the Grimoire for my Titan recently, and I switched everything over to my Warlock. So I'm briefly going to talk about what kind of weapons are good in the Crucible. And one thing that is really important ever since auto rifles got nerfed is the relationship of your rate of fire to the impact of the weapon. This gets to be really important because if you're not sort of able to stagger your enemies, you'll find that they can just keep charging right at you, and they'll shoot you in the head and you'll die before you can kill them, which is usually what happens when people try to use auto rifles. So as you can see, I've got quite the selection of hand cannons out right now. I thought it would be useful to do a side-by-side comparison of the two most popular hand cannons that are out right now. Usually if you get killed by someone with a hand cannon in Crucible, it's either Thorn or Hawkmoon. So you can see that Thorn actually, it's a little faster on the fire rate, but impact's lower, not as good of a range, and it's got a smaller magazine. The benefit to it though is that, and this is the thing everybody hates about it, it does lingering damage over time. So if you shoot someone in the head twice and they run around the corner, they're still going to die. I'll admit I started using it in regular Crucible because it's kind of OP. Hawkmoon is fantastic too. If you look, you see that you have a total of 3 random bullets that will do extra damage. If one of those happens to be the one that you shoot when you're shooting a headshot, you can literally headshot someone and just one-shot kill. So it's a fantastic weapon. I really like the feel of it when it fires, more so than Thorn. I also find that it's, at least for my eyesight or something, it's easier for me to aim using it. Because Control is, it's technically a little slower than, say, Trials. I like to use Thorn in Control. In Trials, things are a lot faster paced, and you don't necessarily have that guaranteed respawn or revive. So Hawkmoon, I find I prefer to use the Hawkmoon. You can't afford to wait around for someone to like die this lingering death if you're running Trials. You need to really be taking people out fast. I'm a little off topic, but I just wanted to throw my 2 cents in on that. If you wanted to compare a few other weapons, this is a pulse rifle. You can see higher rate of fire, lower impact, right? Usually the only pulse rifle I see people using in the Crucible is Red Death, mostly because kills heal you. So that's something that you will see, but for a large part, you're going to mostly see hand cannons. Check the fire rate though. Like this, the impact is really, really high, but the fire rate is surprisingly low. Again, it's so slow. I would be concerned about you having time to get even 2 headshots off in the span of some of the other weapons. My 6 Drag Pride, if we compare, it's slower than that. So really, it's going to be up to you. You know, try out a couple different hand cannons and see what works. It takes a while. If you've been playing with auto rifles or a scout rifle, it does take a while to adjust to using a hand cannon, but I really recommend it because it seems to be, it takes people out the fastest compared to like the number of trigger pulls. So yeah, if you really want to be competitive, go hand cannon. Down here on secondaries, I'm a big fan of either shotguns or fusion rifles. Again, you can tell I'm not a hunter type of player who's sniping people from the back of the map, so I'm not going to try and advise people on what kind of sniper rifles are good, but I do have a good idea about what kind of shotguns and fusion rifles work well in the Crucible. So I'm a big fan of rolling my shotguns so that they can be fired in full auto mode. And if you happen to get your hands on Secret Handshake or Dry Rot, which is basically the same as Secret Handshake, it's just the Secret Handshake version of House of Wolves release, right? They have a very high base fire rate for a shotgun to begin with. So when you combine that with full auto, it really is, it's a pretty powerful weapon. The other thing that you want to take into consideration though is range. Now this Party Crasher I rolled so that it had an exceptionally large range, and so if you're playing, depending on the map, space might be tight or it might be a little more open, and you might find that your shotgun, it just doesn't quite have the range. You're encountering people a little farther out, you might want to switch to a shotgun. If that's still not working, depending on the map, you might end up wanting to equip a fusion rifle. Now the charge rate, it looks like, oh, it's, you know, it's better than than the other, but keep in mind, if you're used to using full auto shotguns, it's definitely going to feel a lot slower. Plug 1 I can't recommend enough. However, it's definitely a one-shot kill in the Crucible. So if you have plug 1s, they're a really solid fusion rifle compared to others. See how high the charge rate is? It's really good. The range might not be as good, but they're pretty stable, and like I said, all you have to do is hit someone once with it and you're good to go. So if you just are coming across one person at a time, fusion rifle, no problem. If you're getting mobbed or something, you might want to switch to a shotgun. The last thing I want to talk about are heavy weapons, and you can go either the machine gun route or the rocket launcher route. I'm a big fan of machine guns because I find that I get more kills out of every heavy weapon drop, because I'm not depending on finding a cluster of enemies every time that I want to shoot. So this, you can sort of run through the map and kill as you go, and you can get that Machine Lord bounty done pretty quickly. Although sometimes when you do come across a bounty that requires a rocket launcher, I would really recommend you at least pick something out that has tracking, just because people aren't going to stand still while you shoot rockets at them. The Hunger of Crota is a really great rocket launcher. If I don't have that equipped, I'm usually going to be using something like the Admonisher. It took a little longer than I thought it would to go over weapon loadout, armor selection, and talk a little bit about the class and skill tree setup I'd like to use when I'm playing PvP. So what I'm going to do is wrap this video up, and then I'll have a part 2 follow-up video in which I show gameplay and I go over the tactics you want to use while you're playing Control. If you enjoyed watching, please feel free to subscribe, and if you have any ideas for future videos, I am always open to suggestion. Just drop a note in the comments below. Thanks for watching Yimba Gaming, and stay tuned for more videos.